for 20 years, at every single family gathering, every wedding, every dinner, every wedding, every dinner, every celebration, my aunt stood up and told everyone the same story, and that she had raised me, that she had sacrificed for me, that without her, I would have had nothing, been nothing, and for 20 years, I sat quietly in my chair. I smiled politely. I said nothing. Because I was taught to respect her, because I did not want to cause problems, and because I kept telling myself, it does not matter, let her have it. 20 years of silence. Until the night of her Lixer's birthday party, 200 guests, long tables covered in white cloth, flowers everywhere. A microphone at the front of the room, she gave her speech, the same story, one more time. About how she had raised me, about her sacrifice, about everything she had given me. The room applauded. Heckin', people looked at me warmly, the grateful niece, raised by this generous woman. I looked down at my hands, and something after 20 years finally broke open. I stood up, I walked to the microphone, and I told the truth, in all of it, in front of every single person in that room. Stay with me, because this story starts long before that birthday party, and it ends in a way I never expected. Okay, let me tell you the real story, the one that never got told at family gatherings. My name is Sarah. My mother passed away when I was 4 years old. A sudden illness, there one day, gone the next. My father, he was not a bad man, but he was completely unprepared to raise a 4-year-old daughter alone. He worked long hours, he was grieving, he was lost. His older sister, my aunt Rehana, offered to help. And she did help. I want to be completely fair about that. She opened her home to me. For stretches of time, I lived with her family while my father worked and tried to rebuild. But here is what Rehana's version of the story always left out. My father never abandoned me. He was present every single weekend. He called every single day. He paid for everything, my school fees, my clothes, my medical costs, my food, my books. Every rupee that kept me alive and educated came from my father. Ken, my grandmother, my father's mother, lived nearby and was with me constantly. She braided my hair every morning. When I stayed at Rehana's house, she told me stories at night. She taught me how to pray. She was the warmth I ran to when anything scared me. My father's younger brother, my Uncle Tariq, he was the one who came to every school event. Every sports day, every prize giving, because my father could not always leave work, Uncle Tariq was there, cheering, clapping, embarrassingly loud, and my mother's own parents, my maternal grandparents, they took me every summer for 2 months. And every single summer, they loved me with everything they had. They kept my mother alive for me through stories and photographs and her favorite recipes cooked every Sunday. I was raised by a village of people who loved me genuinely and showed up consistently. And Rehana was one part of that village, a real part. I do not deny that. But she was not the whole village, and somewhere along the way, she had decided she was. At every family gathering, the story got bigger, her role got larger, everyone else got smaller, and eventually disappeared from the story entirely until it was just her, the lone hero, who had raised the orphan niece all by herself out of pure selfless love. 20 years of that story. And I had never once corrected it until her Luxor's birthday, when I finally decided, enough. Let me tell you what 20 years of silence actually feels like, because it is not one big moment. It is 1,000 small ones. The first time I remember noticing, I was maybe 12 years old, a family wedding. Rehana was talking to a group of women, and I walked past. And she pulled me toward her and said, "This is my Sarah. I raised this one myself." Her mother passed, God rest her soul, and I took her in. She is like my own daughter. The women looked at me with warm, sad eyes. "Masha Allah, sister. What a noble thing. I smiled, said nothing, walked away. That night, I told my grandmother what I had heard. She went very quiet. Then she said, "Your aunt helped you. Remember that, but never forget who you really belong to." I never forgot, but I also never said anything. Year after year, the story came out at gatherings. At my cousin's wedding, Rahana gave a speech, mentioned raising me, room full of tears and admiration. At a family dinner when I graduated, Rahana stood and said all her hard work had paid off, watching me receive my degree. My father was sitting right there. He had paid every single fee. He had driven me to every exam. He had stayed up with me. The night before every major paper, he said nothing. He just looked at his plate. I watched my father look at his plate, and something tightened in my chest that never fully released. The worst moment before the party, the worst moment before the birthday party came 3 years ago. My father was in hospital, minor procedure, but still, family had gathered. Rahana was there, and in the waiting room, surrounded by relatives, she said to someone, "You know, I raised Sarah completely alone after her mother passed. Her father he tried his best, but she did not finish the sentence. She did not need to." The implication was clear. Her father tried his best, but was not enough, was not really there. Was not the real parent. I was sitting 4 chairs away. I heard every word. I looked at my father, lying in a hospital bed 20 feet away. A man who had worked himself to exhaustion for 20 years to give me a good life, and I felt something harden inside me. Not rage, not tears, just a decision that was not yet fully formed, but was beginning to take shape. And a decision that would wait for exactly the right moment. Rahana's Lixer's birthday party was planned for months. Big venue, large guest list, 200 people, family and friends going back decades. I was involved in the planning. Of course I was, because I was the devoted niece raised by this generous woman. I helped choose the venue. I contributed to the gift. I organized the photo slideshow. I was there early on the day, setting up tables and arranging flowers. Because whatever complicated feelings I had about Rahana, she was still my family. She was still the woman who had opened her home to me when I was a lost 4-year-old. That was real. I honored it. The party was beautiful. I will give her that. The room looked wonderful. The food was excellent. People had come from far away. My father was there. Uncle Tariq was there. My grandmother, now in her 80s, was seated at the head table. I remember looking at my grandmother that evening and thinking, this woman braided my hair every morning for years. This woman held me when I had nightmares. This woman taught me the first prayer I ever learned. And in 20 years of Rehana's speeches, she had never once been mentioned. And after dinner, Rahana stood at the microphone. She thanked everyone for coming. She talked about her life, her marriage, her children, her achievements, and then, as predictably as the sun rising, she told the story, the orphaned niece. The sacrifice, the selfless love, the raising of a child who was not her own. She looked at me across the room. The room looked at me too. Warm smiles, admiring eyes. A few hands pressed to heart, and Rahana's voice broke slightly, very theatrical, as she described the difficulty and the reward of raising someone else's child. The room applauded, long and warm and full. I looked at my father. His jaw was tight. His eyes were down. I looked at my grandmother. She was looking at her hands in her lap. I looked at Uncle Tariq. He met my eyes, and something passed between us, a look I cannot fully describe. That said simply, "Enough?" Okay? I did not plan what happened next. I want to be completely honest about that. I had not come to that party with a speech prepared. I had not planned a confrontation. Like, I simply in that moment could not sit down anymore. I stood up. Someone nearby looked at me. Thinking I was going to the bathroom. I walked to the front of the room. I reached the microphone. Rahana looked at me, surprised, smiling, thinking I was going to add to her tribute. And I looked at the 200 people looking back at me, and I said, "First, happy birthday, Rihanna Auntie. 60 years is a beautiful milestone, and I genuinely wish you many more years of health and happiness. I also want to take this moment, since we are all gathered together, to add something to the story that was just told, because it is a story about me. And I think after 20 years, I have earned the right to tell my own version." Dendai continued. "Molligerd, my mother, passed away when I was 4 years old. And yes, Rahana Auntie opened her home to me during a very difficult time. That is true. I am grateful for it. I have always been grateful for it. But I want to introduce you to some other people who also raised me. Yo, my father, who is sitting in this room right now, worked 6 days a week for 20 years to pay for every single thing I ever needed. In my school, my clothes, my food, my future, not one rupee of my upbringing came from anywhere except his hands. And he called me every single day of every single year. He never once stopped being my father, not for one day, Dad. I see you, I have always seen you. And everything I am is because of you." Konzel, my grandmother, who is sitting at this table, braided my hair every morning for years. She held me through every nightmare. She taught me how to pray. She kept my mother alive for me through stories and love. Kanknani, you are the reason I know how to love people properly. My uncle Tariq, who came to every school event when my father could not leave work, who cheered so loudly at my graduation that people 3 rows away turned around. Uncle Tariq, you showed up every single time. I never forget. And my maternal grandparents, who took me every summer and kept my mother's memory. Warm and alive and present, you gave me the greatest gift Anyon could give a motherless child. You made sure I knew exactly who I came from. Dendai looked at Rihanna. She had gone very pale. I said, "Rahana Auntie, you were part of my village, a real part, and I thank you for that genuinely. But I am not your story to tell. I am not your sacrifice to display. I am not the proof of your goodness to be brought out at every gathering for 20 years. I am my father's daughter. I am my grandmother's granddaughter. I am my mother's child, even though she could not stay. And from tonight, that is the story that will be told." I walked back to my seat, sat down, and picked up my water glass, took a sip. The room was silent for what felt like a very long time. Then, from the head table, my grandmother started clapping, slowly at first, then steadily. Uncle Tariq joined her immediately. And then my father, who had tears as running down his face, that he was not trying to hide anymore. Then, one by one, people around the room began to applaud, not everyone, but enough, more than enough. Rahana did not speak to me. For the rest of the evening, she sat at her table, received her guests. Opened her gifts, cut her cake, but she did not look at me once. Her daughters, my cousins, 2 of them came to me separately. The first one, Salmon, came and sat next to me and said very quietly, "I have been waiting for someone to say that for a very long time. I am sorry it had to be you, but I am glad someone finally did." Dizdral, the second one, Farah, was not as understanding. And she came to me sharply and said, "You just humiliated our mother at her lurst birthday. How could you do that?" And I said, "Farah, I told the truth. If the truth felt like humiliation, that says something about the story that was being told, not about me." Hospital, she walked away. We have not spoken since. I understand that. I accept it. My father found me. Near the end of the evening, he did not say much. Hey, he is not a man of many words. He put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, "You should not have had to do that. I should have done it years ago." "Constable," I said, "you were being respectful. That is not a flaw." Din, he said, "It let a lie grow for 20 years." "Doesn't," I said, "it is not a lie anymore." He nodded. He squeezed my shoulder. That was all. That was everything. My grandmother held my face in her hands before she left that night. She is 81 years old. Hey, her hands are small and soft. She looked at me for a long moment. And then she said in her quiet voice, "Your mother would have stood up much sooner than you did." I laughed, and through tears, and she laughed too. Rahana and I eventually spoke about 3 weeks after the party. She called me. The conversation was difficult. There were tears, there were accusations, there was a lot of pain on both sides. She said I had humiliated her. I said she had erased people who deserved to be seen. She said she had sacrificed for me. I said I had never denied that. I said the problem was never her role, it was the way she had made it, the only role. The conversation did not end neatly. It did not end with a hug and a full understanding and everything repaired. Yeah, life is not a movie, but something true was said. And once truth is said out loud, it cannot be unsaid. It simply exists now in the room. Yeah, where everyone can see it. That is enough. Sometimes that is everything. I want to talk to you directly now. Because I know someone watching this has their own version of this story. Maybe someone takes credit for your success. Maybe someone tells a version of your life that leaves out the people who really showed up. Maybe someone has made themselves the hero of your story for so long that other people have started to believe it. And maybe, like me, you have been sitting quietly telling yourself, it does not matter, let them have it. Kendall, I want to say something to you very clearly. It matters, not because you need revenge, not because you need to destroy anyone, but because the people who actually showed up for you, who actually sacrificed for you, who actually loved you, when it was difficult and unglamorous and nobody was watching, those people deserve to be seen. Your father who worked quietly, your grandmother who showed up softly, your uncle who cheered loudly, your grandparents who kept your history alive. They deserve to have their name in your story. And you deserve to tell your own story in your own words with the full truth intact. I also want to say this, and this is the harder part. Rahana was not entirely wrong. She did help me. She did open her home. She did care for me in real ways. The problem was not that she was in my story. The problem was that she made herself the whole story. There is a difference between being part of someone's journey and claiming ownership of it. You can love someone and support someone and still let them belong to themselves. That is what real love does. It holds you and then it lets you go to be fully, completely, beautifully your own. If this story stayed with you, please share it with one person who needs to hear it today. Subscribe if you are new here. I share real stories every single week. And leave me a comment. Tell me about one person who showed up for you quietly, who never got the credit they deserved. And just one person, name them if you want, or just describe them. I want to read every single one. The people who showed up for you, they deserve to be seen. Make sure they know it. See you in the next one.